The views, comments, and opinions of the following program do not necessarily reflect those of Morris Media Studios, MorrisMediaLive.com, or its affiliates. Listener discretion is advised. Peace be unto you. I'm Sister Charlene Mohammed. Welcome to Liberated Sisters. Today we have a lot in store for you. Thank you for tuning in. We are having Black Lives Matter, an update from Dr. Melina Abdullah. Also more after her on the kidnapped journalist Marzieh Hashemi, who has been released, as well as the coup in Venezuela, and of course the Farrakhan factor with Brother Jesse. Tell someone to tune in. We have a very big treat following the Justice Report today. Information is what we want to give to you here on Liberated Sisters. I'm your host, Sister Charlene Mohammed. But first, the Justice Report. Today's Justice Report, you know we're going to come out of the Final Call newspaper, but first, and it's hot off the press, so get your copy, finalcall.com, or from the Brother in the Bow Tie at your door, also on your local corner or at stands across the country. But first, I want to talk to you about what's happening here on the home front. Black Lives Matter co-founder for the Los Angeles chapter, Dr. Melina Abdullah, and Sheila Hines-Brim. She's the aunt of 36-year-old Waukesha Wilson, who died in police custody, Los Angeles Police Department custody, in March 2016. They are battling charges after being arrested following a recent protest at LAPD. The women have been protesting every Tuesday for years with other activists at the LAPD headquarters downtown over the killing of Waukesha Wilson and other black and brown lives by LAPD officers. Hines-Brim was arrested after tossing what she later indicated to a local news reporter were her niece's ashes at retired Chief Charlie Beck. And Dr. Melina was arrested on allegations that she assaulted a police officer. Black Lives Matter co-founder right here in Los Angeles, Patrice Khan Colors, launched a petition at organize4.org. The petition is on organize4, F-O-R. organize4.org. That petition is demanding that City Attorney Mike Fuhrer drop all charges against Dr. Melina Abdullah. Here with the Justice Report update on Hines-Brim's case and her own as well is Black Lives Matter co-founder and chair of the Pan-African Department at Cal State LA, Dr. Melina Abdullah. And I'm telling you, this is important because we're talking about this here in the context of black identity extremism. This is the current day COINTELPRO style tactics that the government has leveled against black activists and those who are protesting, amongst other things. So check that out. But for right now, here is Dr. Melina Abdullah.
Sister Sheila has had some success in her case. She has kind of a deferment, I think, in her case, which means that after going through some grief therapy, her charges are going to be dropped. And that's, something that we're appreciative of. She had a tremendous pro bono lawyer, Sean Chapman Holly, who is a big-time attorney to the stars, and she jumped on representing Sister Sheila as a family member of someone who's been killed by the police and was able to negotiate that for her. So that's what's happening with Sister Sheila's case, and we're very appreciative of her and of her attorney for that. With my case, my charges have not been dropped. In fact, the city attorney, Mike Fiore, heaped on 7 additional counts. So initially I was falsely arrested with a battery charge. They claim that in the commotion following the incident, and they accused Sister Sheila of having thrown the cremated ashes of her niece, Waukesha Wilson, in the face of the police chief. As she was being escorted out of the room, I didn't even see what had happened. As she was being escorted out of the room, my priority was making sure that she was safe, and so I was attempting to film it. I had just walked into the room. I was attempting to film what was happening, and what they allege is that I touched the arm of an officer on the way out the room, and that was the battery. So they used that as an entry point to then criminalize all of my behaviors, or many of my behaviors. And so when we went in for the arraignment on this bogus battery charge, we were shocked to see that 7 additional counts had been added, mostly around what they call disruption of a public meeting. And so they went all the way back as far as they could go for 364 days. So they filed charges on July 24th, 2018, and they charged me beginning with an incident on July 25th, 2017. So it's the farthest back they could go, and they basically allege that because I speak out on behalf of the people who they kill, our people who are murdered at their hands, because I don't just sit down and be quiet, that somehow that's a criminal act. And we know that this is also part of a longer history. They charged General Jeff first, and then they charged Baba Keeley before me, and now they're charging me. So we really see this as the criminalization of Black protest. My next hearing is on February 7th at the Criminal Courts Building, 210 West Temple, Department 43, February 7th at 9 a.m., and we need as many people to be there as possible. Last week's hearing on January 22nd, more than 200 people came out to the courthouse. They think that they can prosecute us quietly, and that we don't get that this is not just an attack on me. This is an attack on Black Lives Matter. This is an attack on Black protests more broadly. And so Black folks, whoever you are, whatever organization you're a part of, or if you're not a part of any organization, we need to remember that this is an attack on all of us and people who care about Black people. This is an attack on you too. And so we need everybody to show up on February 7th at 9 a.m. at the Criminal Courts Building.
Thank you very much, Sarah. As you know, on January the 23rd, President Trump officially recognized the president of the Venezuelan National Assembly, Juan Guaido, as the interim president of Venezuela.
There's increasing attacks against the people of Venezuela and against the sovereignty of Venezuela. It's akin to during the Civil War here, if one of the Confederates generals or something said I am now the president, and some other country came and said, well, okay, we accept that person as the president. It's kind of the same thing that's going on right now, especially when you think in terms of this the National Assembly. I mean, the Venezuelan people had a vote, and it was a vote that was observed internationally. So he won the election hands down, and many observers said that. Western countries as well. I think some forces in the United Nations said this was a transparent election, much more transparent than our election. I mean, Donald Trump didn't even get the majority of the votes, and our electoral system is not used in Venezuela. it's really hypocritical of the U.S. to say that now they're going to support this person who didn't even get any votes because he knew he couldn't run. This Guaido, I think I'm pronouncing it right, who's proclaimed himself as the interim president. Knew in the polls he got about 34,000 things, and Maduro got about 5 million in support. So it's a reflection of, again, the U.S. attack on the sovereignty of Venezuela, just like they had a coup in Honduras under the Obama administration against the wishes of the Honduran people. And, it's really important that people understand that the National Assembly, the assembly that was replaced, the assembly that's represented by the Venezuelan people, if you look at it and you look at the people who are in the leadership of that assembly, constituent assembly, it's a lot of black and brown folks. And if you look at the one that this interim president that Trump said and Pence said is the president of Venezuela, you don't see black and brown folks in that one. So, this is a continuation of the racism of Trump as well. And so we're going to have an emergency demonstration on Saturday. Actually, it's a national demonstration now. Many other people are coming, which includes many organizations from the Barrios School of the Americas Watch, Buy on USA, California for Progress, many organizations. I can't mention them all. But at 2 p.m. at MacArthur Park. And we're going to be in solidarity with the people of Venezuela and demanding no U.S. intervention from Latin America to Palestine to Syria, U.S. hands off Venezuela. And if people want to find out more information about the demonstration, they can call me at 323-899-2003. And if you can't reach me, you can get the Harry Tubman Center at 323-306-6240.
Thank you, Brother John Parker. That is John Parker of the Harriet Tubman Center for Social Justice, with analysis of the coup in Venezuela and the action taking place in MacArthur Park. And so right now, as we transition to the Farrakhan factor, I want to close out the Justice Report with calling your attention to the current edition of the Final Call newspaper. The current edition of the Final Call newspaper, right there you see it, kidnapped by U.S. government. This story is very riveting. Please pick up the Final Call newspaper. The story talks about our sister Marzieh Hashimi. She's a journalist and an press TV anchor, born in Louisiana, lives in Tehran. She was taken by the U.S. government, not charged, held, I think it was 11 days. She spoke out at the rally and protest for her. And so pick up the Final Call newspaper, and you can also see that edition, that article at finalcall.com. And that's been our Justice Report. Let's make way for the Farrakhan Factor with Brother Jesse Mohammed.
I was told to deliver this message. You think you're invincible because you got money, bombs, guns, and planes, killing babies, innocent people. I think you're insane.
This is the
Chaos and destruction is the name of your game. Somebody's got to stop you before the whole world goes up in flames. So he told me to tell you, I'll fight for my brothers. We can go to war.
Brother Jesse Mohammed, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
I know you wanted the whole thing, brother. I know you wanted the whole thing.
Man, look, I think we should just play that track and I just close out.
I know, right? I know, right?
Play the whole song.
And that's the remix. Can we just say that? That is actually the remix. I'm going to have to play the one with the ministers.
Absolutely. With the Honorable Elijah Muhammad at the beginning.
Oh, my God.
Man,
oh, my God.
What is powerful.
Yeah. Brother Jesse, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule. Oh, my God. All of you today. Dr. Molina, Brother John, you super powerful, busy people. But thank you for being with Liberated Sisters. What's on the Farrakhan Factor today?
Well, we want to take you to the dinner table today.
Ooh, turn it up.
Somebody brought to my attention that the CEO of Twitter, Jack Dorsey, put out a tweet on the 26th.
Wow.
Wherein he stated been playing with fasting for some time. I do a 22-hour fast daily.
Wow.
He put in parentheses, dinner only, and recently did a 3-day water fast.
Huh.
Then he says, the biggest thing I noticed is how much time slows down.
Wow.
He said the day feels so much longer when not broken up by breakfast, lunch, dinner. Anyone else have this experience? He questioned. Now, this is something that came to mind, and you listeners that are familiar with the Nation of Islam, you already know where we're going in this Farrakhan fact.
Come on.
Now, it's interesting that in 1967, in a book called How to Eat to Live, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad stated that fasting is a greater cure of all ills, both mental and physical.
That's right.
Than all of the drugs of the earth combined into one bottle or a billion bottles. Now, wait a minute now. Now, Sister Charlene, is it a coincidence that back in February of last Savior's Day, as we're approaching the 2019 one, but in 2018, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan went before the world to talk about how to eat to live and him getting back on the discipline of eating one meal a day.
That's right.
And he said that one meal a day from that day forward will become law in the Nation of Islam, right? And he talked about the importance of our diet, our thinking, the way we look at ourselves in the mirror, and improving our health.
Yeah.
So when I researched more about Mr. Dorsey and this conversation that now seems like new revelation with intermittent fasting and all these types of things, right, trends, they started a Twitter account that's called Zero Fasting.
Wow.
And the poll that they recently took is, for those of you doing one meal a day, how long is the typical eating window for you to follow?
Come on.
They're asking people to eat one meal a day?
So
when I researched this Twitter account and this app, I noticed that they launched this campaign in May of last year. Now, some people are like, well, what does that got to do with the Farrakhan factor?
Yeah.
Well, on May the 27th, Minister Farrakhan did a serious lecture about the unmasking of Satan. And it was during that month that his enemies put a serious flurry against Twitter to de-verify his account and to completely take it down.
Yeah.
Well, Jack Dorsey and them, they buckled to the pressure of taking down the verification symbol, but they have kept their account up. So Zero Fasting starts in May. Now they're talking about one meal a day. Brothers and sisters,
come on, Brother Jesse.
Do we see the Farrakhan factor happening even at the dinner table?
Wow.
See,
come on.
Many of us, we don't want to believe that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was taught by whom he said he was taught by, Master Father Muhammad. And many of us don't want to believe that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is a divine guide that can not only teach us mentally, but also teach us what foods to eat and what to store in our houses. But now you see this trend of intermittent fasting, and now the CEO of Twitter and others have started the Zero Fasting campaign to encourage people to eat one meal a day and to fast 3 days out the month. Brothers and sisters, that is the way of the Nation of Islam. We can't make this stuff up.
Hands down.
This is important. And lastly, as I close this segment out, you know, brothers and sisters, many of us marvel at how beautiful the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan looks. And trust and believe, he looks wonderful. In all recent interviews, campaigns, flyers, whatever it may be, he's beautiful.
Yeah.
He always says it has also something to do with those two books, How to Eat to Live. And one of the Farrakhan factors that I've seen that have impacted people the most, Sister Charlene, is how he conducts himself at the dinner table. Minister Farrakhan is not eating fast food at the dinner table.
Come on.
Minister Farrakhan is not eating in his lap with a TV running or music playing loud.
Minister
Farrakhan is not eating hot flaming Cheetos and putting them in the side of the car or in the glove compartment next to the Twix.
No flaming hot.
Not the flaming hot. The Honorable Minister Farrakhan is eating a well-prepared cooked meal every single night, and engaging in high-level conversation that affects the digestive process.
Come on.
So, brothers and sisters, if you needed any further proof that the way of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Minister Farrakhan is life-saving, go join the conversation by Jack Dorsey and those on Twitter. If you don't believe us. And when you finally become a believer of this Farrakhan factor, then we want you to go to store.finalcall.com.
That's right.
And get the book, How to Eat to Live.
That's right.
That's the Farrakhan factor for today.
Brother Jesse, that is so riveting. Thank you so much for bearing witness in the Farrakhan factor to what we're told. Everybody's going to come by this teaching.
Man, look, and that's the point. The teachers of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, as Minister Farrakhan said in a recent interview with NFA, he said, of course, it started with the black man and woman,
right?
Because they're to be resurrected first. But he said, this teaching is for everybody, and can help and heal anybody, no matter who you are. And now we're getting a chance to see that others are promoting 1 meal a day and fasting 3 days out the week. And
from what source? I mean, we battle in Twitter, but they're benefiting right away. So thank you for that, Brother Jesse. And we look forward to next week with the Farrakhan factor. I appreciate it. And what we're getting ready to do right now is hear from Minister Farrakhan. It's actually his interview, an excerpt. I think we'll be able to get about maybe 35 minutes of his interview with Sister Marzieh Hashemi. You know, she's released, of course, right? Yeah. You know. Yeah. Brother Jesse?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Thank you. Oh, my God. Let me just tell you. Thank you, Brother Jesse. We're getting all caps. Thank you. Wows. on the thread. Thank you so much for the Farrakhan factor. We're going to turn now to Assalamu alaikum, Brother Jesse.
Wa alaikum salam.
Thank you. We're going to turn now to Sister Marzieh Hashemi. She is the Press TV journalist, and this is an interview she did with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in Tehran in November when he was there. Here's the interview at NOI.org. In its entirety, you can get it there.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister Farrakhan, for talking to us at Press TV today. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you so much for hosting a dynamic press conference. Thank you.
Yes, definitely. It was dynamic. I want your assessment overall of your visit here to the Islamic Republic of Iran.
I've been coming here 22 years. The first time I came was in 1996. I was doing a world tour after the Million Man March. President Rafsanjani, through his foreign minister, received me at the airport as though I were a head of state. They brought me to a beautiful home. It was during Ramadan. And all the team that came with me, we stayed in this one beautiful house. And the Secret Service of Iran and my own little security, they went with me everywhere we went. I felt from President Rafsanjani that I was in fact his brother, and he welcomed me. And at the anniversary of the revolution, I heard that I was the only foreigner that was allowed to share that dais with the president on the day of celebration. I spoke to about 6 million people in the square, and 60 million people were watching on TV. How could I go away from Iran not feeling absolutely wonderful? That was the first time we came.
But after that, things got a little shaky. Because we came, but we never had the same kind of reception. Not that we needed that, but we have not been received by the government of Iran like it was during the time of Brother Rafsanjani.
Why do you think that's the case?
American influence. I was supposed to speak last year at the celebration, from what I was told, and I was supposed to speak before 500 scholars that were here for the celebration. And I never spoke at the meeting with the scholars. And when it was time to speak at the celebration, I was told that John Kerry, the Secretary, what is his title? Secretary of State, called and said it wouldn't be good for relations if Farrakhan were to speak. I don't know the truth of that. But I know I was trying to come here years ago when I believe Brother Veliati was the foreign minister. But at the time, James Baker from the Bush administration was here, and other political considerations, it was not a good time for me to come. So I felt kind of bad the last time I was here. And I said, well, I don't know that I'm going to come back again. This time was the best of all times. It's the best of all times because I met the best of all men. I was blessed to have an audience with Ayatollah Khamenei. The security was magnificent. The accommodation, who could not rejoice in such accommodation? Last year, we had little rooms. My poor cook was in a room across from mine, cooking in a bedroom. And so what do I feel today? I feel the open arms of my family in Iran. I feel that they're beginning to understand us. And as you understand us more, the heart opens. When Brother Rafsanjani saw the million-man march, he was impressed because Washington closed down. City government closed down. Congress closed down. The Supreme Court closed down. And the president got out of town. And on that day, 2 million black men took over the city, and there was not one crime that day in Washington, D.C., and the ripple effect was seen all around the country. So, my dear sister, I know I'm a little long on that answer, but I think I feel at home. This is where we belong. And so I felt that way. And I am assured that no matter what we suffer, this was the right place for me to be. This was the right time for me to be here. to be with my family. May Allah bless Iran to survive the horror of these sanctions. And may He bless us to survive what they're going to put on us when we get home.
Well, let's look at that. You just talked about yourself, your organization, African Americans in general, and then Iran. I want to talk about the similarities because if we look at the suffering of African Americans over 4 centuries of suffering, you as the leader of the Nation of Islam, what would you say is the greatest lesson that our history has taught you that could actually help the Iranians in dealing with the United States?
Well, of course, I don't know any other nation that has endured 463 years of oppression and tyranny. And it goes on right up to this moment that we are conversing. We believe that Allah wants us to separate from America. We do not wish to be integrated into that decadent house. We want some territory that we can call our own, because we are between 40 and 50 million people, and with our Hispanic brothers and sisters of the same number or more, and our native people, white supremacy makes it difficult for us to live in peace with them. And now, the attempt now is, you don't have anything for us to do. So there's a plan outright to kill us. And it's happening every single day. Somebody is killing a black boy, a black man, a black woman. We are still suffering. And even though some of us are living better than others, the one lesson we learn is that the white American is disagreeable to live with in peace. And if you've got a husband that is not good, and he keeps beating you and mistreating you, at a certain point, the romance is over. A divorce is a proper thing. It would be better for us to have a divorce from America with land settlement and reparations to build a nation of our own. And that's what we want. We learn. The big lesson is we can't live with them in peace. Have you noticed, my sister, that if you and I in America, we look at the same thing, but we see it differently all the time? They want peace, but they want peace on their terms. It's like we don't have any terms for peace, so we have to settle with whatever we can get. I'm sure you heard the news, 100 women or more in the Congress of the United States. That gives us a glimmer of hope. Because any society that's totally run by men is missing something. And this revolution, women are playing a significant role. Women are in parliament, right? Women in government. We have a long way to go in recognizing the supreme value of women. But those women, Muslim, Christian, Jews, agnostics, they're all there in the Congress. they got a chance to see if they can make the words life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, freedom of speech, freedom of thought, freedom of assembly, freedom of religion, freedom of the press, if they can help that to become a reality. I don't think so, but we are not angry if they try. But I hope we can find a way to get away from them.
Let's talk about that. Find a way to get away from them. So what exactly does that mean? Does that mean that United States would basically, because we've seen in the past, the promises that they had given to black people after slavery, that they never kept their promise, the promises that they had given throughout the years. I mean, even if we go to the Voting Rights Act and we see that it was rescinded recently.
That's right.
We see that so many promises have been made, but never really carried out. So how can we get from where we are now to what you're saying as far as actually getting separate land, our own land?
We can't do it without the help of Allah. In the Quran and in the Bible, God came to the children of Israel and raised Moses up not to integrate the children of Israel into Egypt, but to give them a land of their own. Pharaoh thought he was a god beside God. So he didn't know who this was that Moses was representing. There were 10 plagues that hit Pharaoh, and the last one was the plague of death. And only those that had on their doorpost the blood of a lamb, had an X on it, they were spared in what is called the Passover. But when Pharaoh thought that his end had come, he told Moses, take your people and go. But as Moses and the people were leaving, Pharaoh took his army and said, go and kill them. And that's when Pharaoh's army was destroyed. And as Pharaoh was going down in that sea, he bore witness that Allah is God. And Allah saved his body. And his body is in the museum in Egypt as a sign to this modern Pharaoh who thinks he's a god. And he's made everybody terrified. Everybody's frightened of America. And Allah is whipping the hell out of America with wind and rain and fire and water and hail. You haven't seen nothing yet. Earthquakes will bring down cities. And when he knows that it's coming because of us. Yesterday, I said to them, there are two that back me. I wasn't making something up. The two that back me have the power to destroy America. There's a machine up over your head. I tried to say this in Iran, wondering, are your scientists looking at the phenomena of what you call unidentified flying objects? I brought it up to some of the generals, and I wanted to hear, have you been watching this? God is present. The wisdom of God. Have you seen this black brother on television that is a physicist and biophysicist, chemist? He's talking about what's going on out there. We had some who have experience with the wheels at our convention, and they said that the knowledge that is on that wheel, it would take 1,000 years for America, or for the wise of America, to catch up to that. That's the power that's backing us. So we're not worried whether we're going to get what we want. That's why I said the country is ours. Allah says in the Bible and in the Quran, He takes the kingdom from whom He pleases, and He gives it to whom He pleases, and it pleases Him that we should have some land of our own. So when Allah's help and victory comes, and you see men entering the religion of Allah in companies, celebrate the praise of your Lord and ask His protection, for surely Allah is the best of protectors. So no, we're fulfilling the book, and you are fulfilling the book. You have a great future, a great role to play in the ending of a world of evil.
Minister, when we look at the situation, for example, of the current status of African Americans in general, as you said, as we're speaking now, unfortunately, more of our brothers and sisters are being killed or arrested. We have seen the number of abortions in the black community that's systematic, basically. One would say, trying to stop us from reproducing. We've seen a rise in homosexuality that was never tolerated, actually, in the black community. The rise in crime, of course, we have gotten over the crack peak, fortunately, but that caused such division of families. So my question to you then, as a leader of the Nation of Islam, what needs to be done on that side of things to get our people ready for what you have said? And tell me the role you see the nation being able to fulfill in all of this.
You described the condition very, very well. Somebody may not want to leave the house, but if the house is on fire, you get out. Our people's suffering is being amplified now because the Honorable Elijah Muhammad warned us years ago we must get up and do something for ourselves before we are forced to do it. He told us the factories would close. And now in America, there's hardly any jobs in the inner cities for our people. In Flint, Michigan, they poisoned the water. And it's happened in Cleveland and in other cities. This is a genocidal plot against us. The Native Americans on the reservation, terrible suffering. So we have to come to the realization that enough is enough. And when we are ready to answer the question in the Quran that says persecution is worse than slaughter, and when we're ready to answer the question of the law of retaliation, a life for a life, you don't get what you want until you're ready to pay the supreme sacrifice to get it. And I don't like to talk much about this, but our people are getting very, very tired of dying at the hands of the enemy and not reciprocating. Allah is the avenger, that's true, but we have something to do. So right now, we're buying farmland, we're growing our own food to a very small degree. And by the way, on my way to Qum, I saw a lot of land. I saw on television today 700 billion hectares of land in Africa. It's either millions or billions. I think it's billions that are not cultivated. If we have to continue to import food from Europe and America, we put our mouth in the enemy's kitchen and wonder why our health is deteriorating. When we were here last, my cook was taken somewhere and shown food underground that's growing in areas that you wouldn't think would be able to produce food. But we have arable land in Iran. And if that land is made useful, if it's not useful, we can feed 80 million Iranians and we can feed others. We're going to have to do something for ourselves. And when somebody tries to stop you from doing something to help yourself, that's the time you have to fight and die. And unfortunately, take the lives of others in order for the world to see enough is enough. And that's what has happened with our Palestinian family. The Israelis cannot understand, neither can whites in America understand. When you close off every avenue of redress of grievance, you can't get justice in the courts, you can't get justice in the United Nations, you can't get justice from the World Court. What do you do? So my brothers, my sisters, and even children are strapping bombs on themselves and blowing themselves up to bring pain to their oppressor, so that perhaps these are martyrs, that their death will bring about a change. So when we look in Gaza and we see the Palestinians throwing stones, death to them is better than to continue to live as they live. We're being forced into that situation in America. Every little glimmer of hope has brought us nothing. We thought with Obama we might see a change, but our brother was selected before he was elected. He had a good heart. He really wanted to do good, but you're in a system that is so rotten, it affected him. He wasn't a good pharaoh. He can't be like Trump. Trump is a hell of a pharaoh. And you know what? Barack was in office for 8 years. after the first year, he was getting great. By the time the 8th year rolled around, poor brother, trying to be a white man in black skin and do their wicked deeds, he was killing himself. Now look at Trump. Today is the first day I saw him look really bad. Because Trump seems to relish the evil that he says and the evil that he does. But today, that man walked out from behind the podium threatening. They're very antagonistic toward him. And now that they've put the Democrats in power in the House of Representatives, there's no telling where this thing is going to go in the next couple of years. My dear sister, I'm so honored to just be sitting here.
What a wonderful interview. Minister Farrakhan is closing out, telling Sister Marzieh Hashemi how honored he was to be sitting there interviewing with her, speaking with her, and in her presence. You can view that entire interview at noi.org, noi.org. We wanted you to see it all here, but you can see it for a time in memoriam at noi.org. And the Final Call newspaper's front page cover story about our sister's release. Please go and look at that. Also go to YouTube and hear, as well as Press TV, you can hear her comments herself upon her release and the activism that is now coming out of herself and her family, in addition to the journalist work that she was doing beforehand. Again, just being taken at an airport, detained without charges. And there's more about what the material witness policy is in the United States. And activists are talking about how that could happen to anyone, not just a journalist. And so you want to be aware of that. Finalcall.com and NOI.org for that full message. I would like to say thank you to Dr. Melina Abdullah, Black Lives Matter. Thank you, Brother John Parker of the Harriet Tubman Center, and Brother Jesse Mohammed for the Farrakhan Factor, all of you contributing to the Justice Report. I would like to say thank you to Sister Felicia, the Poetess Morris, and Morris Media Studios for having us. We're going to be coming to you next week with a great show. We're getting ready for Savior's Day, and so we'll have some shows about that and some great guests coming up. I'm Sister Charlene Mohammed saying if it's impacting our community or can uplift us as a people, let's talk about it. Peace.